Liam Neeson opens up about his late wife, Natasha Richardson.
Just told her I loved her, said, sweetie, you're not coming back from this.
Liam Neeson says he is done with dating.
When Liam said goodbye to the love of his life, he shut the door to ever loving a woman again. But 14 years later, he met Pamela.
Liam Neeson has finally broken his silence about the real reason he's opening his heart again. After 16 years. For years, people assumed he'd never love after Natasha Richardson. But what he just revealed through his actions and what Pamela Anderson admitted about their connection tells a much deeper, more shocking story about the psychology of grief and second chances. October 2024. Liam Neeson tells People magazine something that reveals the complex psychology of long-term grief. No, in a word, I'm past all that. When asked about dating, his response carries the weight of someone who's constructed his identity around being Natasha Richardson's devoted widower.
She was a radiant beauty. Cascading hair, I remember. I'd never had that kind of an explosive chemistry situation with an actor. She and I were like a Astaire and Rogers. We had just this wonderful kind of free dance on stage every night.
But human psychology rarely operates in such clear boundaries. In that same time frame, Liam describes being madly in love with Pamela Anderson, professionally, he emphasizes. Yet, the language of love remains consistent regardless of context. This contradiction reveals something psychologists recognize in long-term grief processing, the simultaneous desire to honor the past while unconsciously preparing for emotional connection. Liam wasn't lying when he said he was past all that. He genuinely believed it. Consider your own experience with major life transitions. How often have we declared ourselves done with something only to discover we were actually in preparation for the next chapter? Share your perspective in the comments. What emerges from this contradiction isn't deception, but rather the natural human tension between honoring memory and remaining emotionally alive. The woman who would challenge this carefully constructed boundary had navigated her own complex relationship with love across 5 marriages. Understanding this romance requires examining what Natasha Richardson represented in Liam's emotional landscape. March 18th, 2009.
This morning, there are reports that actress Natasha Richardson is in critical condition following a skiing accident.
Award-winning actress Natasha Richardson is a Hollywood blue blood.
You ever ask yourself why you like hanging around Nell so much?
Great, here we go again.
Not exactly a grown woman, is she?
People.com reports Richardson suffered a head injury during a skiing accident yesterday at a Canadian ski resort.
Seemingly minor skiing accident in Montreal became a traumatic loss that fundamentally altered his approach to love and attachment. It was a horrible thing to happen, Liam reflected in a rare, candid moment. Natasha Richardson, Tony Award winner, Redgrave family legacy, mother to his teenage sons, died at 45, leaving behind a man who would spend the next decade and a half processing what psychologists call complicated grief.
Liam has fallen into depression and alcoholism following his wife's tragic death.
Do you think a lot about the way she died?
It was like a cartoon, the brains squashed up against the side of the skull.
What distinguishes Liam's grief journey is his relationship with physical space. Sources close to the actor reportedly say the New York apartment remained largely untouched, same furniture, same arrangements, same emotional imprint, for 16 years. Grief counselors recognize this pattern, preserving environments as a way to maintain emotional connection to the deceased. This isn't simply about being unable to move on. It's about the complex psychology of honoring love while remaining emotionally alive. While other public figures remarried or began new relationships, Liam chose what researchers call continuing bonds with Natasha's memory, with only a brief relationship with PR executive Freya St. Johnston from 2010 to 12 that ended when it challenged this emotional equilibrium. The apartment remained his primary relationship with memory, with love, with a life that existed in preservation rather than progression. When people observe his new connection with Pamela Anderson, some interpret it as betrayal. But grief psychology suggests something more complex. The possibility that profound love can create space for new love rather than preclude it. April 2024, The Naked Gun set. Two established performers meet for the first time, each carrying their own relationship history and emotional patterns. What's remarkable is how their connection developed, despite, or perhaps because of, their vastly different approaches to love and attachment.
After 5 divorces, Pamela has found the one.
I really fell madly in love.
But did she choose the wrong man again?
Pamela's admission that she was literally shaking during their first rehearsal reveals something significant about the dynamic. Here's a woman who'd navigated high-profile relationships with Tommy Lee, Kid Rock, and others, experiencing genuine nervousness around a 73-year-old widower. This suggests an unconscious recognition that this interaction carried different emotional weight. Their professional chemistry developed through what psychologists call secure attachment behaviors. Pamela describes their connection as built on utmost respect for one another and shared appreciation for literature and a good laugh.
Liam, what was your first impression of me when we met?
I thought, oh my God, she is so easy on the eyes.
Oh.
I was really taken with your there-ness. You were absolutely there. There was no high. You know, I knew we had a kind of a chemistry from very, very early on.
The timeline becomes telling. June 2024. That Florida restaurant photograph captures them months before their press tour, a crucial detail. Sources suggest this wasn't performance for publicity, but rather two people choosing to spend personal time together during a break in filming. Pamela's approach was remarkably sophisticated. She baked sourdough bread as therapy and shared it with Liam. Food as emotional connection is deeply rooted in human bonding psychology. But more telling is how she structured their interactions. Professionally romantic dinners with assistants present. Consider the emotional intelligence required here. Pamela recognized she was dealing with someone whose heart had been carefully protected for 16 years. Rather than push boundaries, she created safe spaces for connection to develop naturally. This reveals someone who understood that rushing or pressuring would destroy any possibility of authentic connection. Instead, she offered consistency, warmth, and respect for his emotional process. When their romance became public during the July press tour, the response revealed something fascinating about how society processes second chance love after profound loss.
Liam Neeson and Pamela.
Yes! They were launched on the carpet.
That's phenomenal pop culture knowledge.
If love has found their way into that relationship, God bless them both. Leave them the alone and let them like each other, because both of them have had hardship and they're both beautiful human. Makes me cry.
But the most psychologically significant reaction came from within Natasha Richardson's family circle. Jolie Richardson's response, 7 red heart emojis on Pamela's promotional post, represents far more than social media engagement. As Natasha's sister and someone who helped Liam raise his sons after the tragedy, her public blessing carries extraordinary emotional weight. This gesture reflects what grief counselors call permission to love again. For someone like Liam, whose identity became intertwined with being Natasha's devoted widower, family approval provides psychological safety to explore new emotional territory without feeling like betrayal. Andy Cohen's more explicit endorsement adds crucial context. She is an independent woman just like Tash was. She loves to cook. She has her own thing going on. She has 2 boys. This comparison isn't coincidental. It suggests Pamela shares fundamental characteristics that Liam valued in his marriage to Natasha. Research on widowhood shows that successful second relationships often mirror positive aspects of the first marriage. This isn't about replacement. It's about recognizing compatible emotional patterns and values. The family's support suggests they recognize something healthy in this connection. Rather than viewing it as competition with Natasha's memory, they're seeing it as continuation of Liam's capacity for deep, meaningful partnership. However, public response remains divided. Some view this as beautiful validation of Liam's right to happiness. Others struggle with what feels like diminishing of his legendary devotion to Natasha. These reactions reveal our collective complicated relationship with grief, memory, and the possibility of loving more than once in a lifetime. 3 days ago, Pamela Anderson offered perhaps the most psychologically revealing insight into their relationship. He's such a gentleman, such a sweetheart, so giving and generous, and so complimentary and supportive that, you can't help but fall in love with him. The phrase, "you can't help but fall in love with him," deserves deeper analysis. This comes from someone whose relationship history includes 5 marriages: Tommy Lee, Kid Rock, Rick Salomon twice, Dan Hayhurst, and numerous high-profile connections spanning 3 decades. What makes this confession significant isn't just its honesty, but what it reveals about the difference between choosing love and experiencing love. Pamela's previous relationships often involved intense attraction, public passion, and dramatic dynamics. Her description of Liam suggests something entirely different: organic, inevitable, emotional response based on character rather than chemistry. Her admission of initial nervousness, "I was afraid to meet him, I was literally shaking," reveals someone recognizing that this interaction carried different stakes.
What is Liam's proudest career moment to date?
Proudest moment.
Working with you.
And working with me.
So is this the real deal or just for publicity? A source tells People magazine it's a budding romance and it's clear they're smitten with each other.
You want it to be real, don't you? These are 2 immensely charismatic people who are also incredibly kind, and I'm not surprised they enjoy each other's company.
It really is a non-manufactured chemistry.
After decades in Hollywood and multiple marriages, discovering calm, consistent affection represents a fundamental shift in relationship pattern. This psychological evolution from seeking intensity to appreciating steadiness often occurs as people mature and better understand what creates lasting emotional satisfaction. August 4th, 2025. Property records in New York City document a transaction that represents far more than real estate. Liam Neeson sold the apartment he shared with Natasha Richardson. This decision illuminates the complex psychology of grief, memory, and choosing life over preservation. Purchased with Natasha in 1999 for $3.9 million, sold for $10 million. But the financial aspect misses the emotional significance. This 5-bedroom space served as his primary relationship for 16 years, with memory, with love, with a carefully maintained connection to his deceased wife. Grief counselors recognize this pattern, maintaining physical spaces as emotional anchors. For Liam, that apartment wasn't just where he lived, it was where Natasha continued to exist through preserved environment and unchanged routines. Selling it represents what psychologists call adaptive grief, the ability to honor memory while choosing ongoing life. This isn't about forgetting or replacing Natasha's importance. Rather, it suggests Liam has reached a place where love of her doesn't require physical shrine maintenance. This decision raises profound questions about how we balance honoring the past with embracing possible futures. Some view this as beautiful progress, a man choosing emotional aliveness over memorial preservation. Others see it as diminishing sacred devotion. The complexity lies in understanding that releasing physical space doesn't negate emotional connection. Liam's choice suggests he's found ways to carry Natasha's love forward without requiring environmental stasis. This psychological evolution from preservation to integration often marks healthy grief processing. The apartment sale doesn't erase 26 years with Natasha. Instead, it creates space for his remaining years to include new joy alongside treasured memory. What emerges from this story transcends typical celebrity romance coverage. We're witnessing something rare. 2 people in their later decades discovering that authentic connection remains possible, even after profound loss and relationship complexity. Liam Neeson's journey from devoted widower to someone capable of new love offers insight into the resilience of the human heart. Pamela Anderson's recognition that she's never experienced this quality of emotional partnership speaks to how we can continue growing in our understanding of healthy relationships, regardless of age or history. Their story raises meaningful questions about balancing memory with possibility, honoring the past while remaining open to unexpected futures. Rather than viewing this as betrayal versus healing, Perhaps it represents something more nuanced, the capacity for multiple forms of love across a lifetime. Do you see Liam's choice as betrayal of Natasha's memory, or proof that true love can happen more than once in a lifetime? Share your perspective below. How do you balance honoring important relationships from your past while remaining open to new connections? If you've decided this story has you questioning everything you thought you knew about Liam and Pamela's connection, you must watch our complete breakdown of how Liam actually broke his silence on their romance rumors. We uncovered the exact moment he stopped deflecting questions, the body language experts missed, and what he said that changes the entire narrative. This isn't optional viewing, it's the missing piece that makes everything make sense.